dear students. So this is just for you. So if anyone shows up in chat that doesn't belong here, normally doesn't happen because I'm not a popular channel or anything. I'm just a teacher, and I don't have that many followers. I don't get that many views. So, but if on the off chance that somebody shows up and they don't belong here, you can block them. I gave everyone the power to block them. So here's how this is going to work. And I'm going to say this in Norwegian because I don't want there to be any doubt about this. Don't laugh at my Norwegian. For at alle som skal få. Okay, I'm going to start again. Alle sammen må delta i chatboksen. Hvis dere ikke kan et svar, prøv neste. Prøv neste og så neste, så dere må skrive i chatboksen. Ellers kan jeg ikke se hva dere gjør om dere er med. Hvis dere ikke deltar, så kan jeg ikke skrive at dere har vært her. Da blir det fravær, så skriv i chatboksen. Gi et svar. Hvis det ikke er riktig, det er helt greit, så lærer vi av det. Skriv i chatboksen. Skriv noe. Det blir noe for alle. Jeg skal stille mange typer spørsmål for VG3, VG2, og dere skal bare skrive inn. I hope that's understood. Management has access to the channel. Both your supervising teachers, VG2 and VG3, they also have a link to this, so they can come in and see what people are doing if they're participating. And I'm going to try to ask questions that people can answer differently. So it's not going to be like questions that one person's going to answer, and then if the next person answers the same thing, it's going to be like they're copying or something like that. I'm going to try to do it in a way that people can give different answers. So we're going to get started. What we're doing today is we're going to be working on topics that both classes need to be very good at. So last year, VG3 learned about literary devices. Last year they had two teachers. They had me and they also had a different teacher. They learned literary devices from the other teacher, and it was last year. So it's very possible that right now it would be good to repeat some of the information from last year. And it's not like if you don't remember, you don't remember. You don't have a clear recollection of it. You will learn today. This is what VG2 is doing at the moment, literary devices. Here's something that everyone should know. Besides that, what everyone should know, because it could be on your exam, you need to know how to use your techniques. You need to have techniques in place to where you read a text and you know, oh, there's an extract from a novel. Oh no, this is actually an article. Oh no, I see this. 5 paragraphs, all neat and organized. Essay. What kind of essay is it? I think it's argumentative. Oh no, I think it's expository. So you should be able to use your techniques to figure this out. Without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to give you a line, and you're going to tell me what kind of literary device is being applied in that line. I'm going to also open a page where I can write this down. But I'm going to start just giving you the sounds. Suddenly, Serena saw what was happening. Suddenly, Serena saw what was happening. What do you notice? What do you notice right there? Suddenly, Serena noticed what was happening. Suddenly, Serena noticed or saw whatever you're thinking right. Suddenly, Serena saw what was happening. Those of you who wrote, "Hey, Pollyanna, I noticed there's repetition of sounds." The repetition of sounds, especially in poetry, it can give an effect, like a sound effect almost, right? And I know you might be thinking, "Hey, Pollyanna, how about onomatopoeia?" Right? That's different. Onomatopoeia is the description, almost like the written description of a sound. What we're talking about here is not that. We're talking about alliteration. And those of you who wrote that, more power to you. Excellent. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of sounds, and it occurs mostly in poetry, but it can also occur in a regular text. I'm going to open a window in the back. God bless me and keep this cold away from me. I do not want to catch a cold. So I'm going to open a window for you to look at it so you can write this down. If you didn't remember it from last year, VG3, it's perfectly fine. Absolutely perfectly fine. Because you can always catch up. And that's why I'm here. I've told you time and time again, it is okay for you to say, "Wat is miska egentlig gjør? Jeg forstår ikke oppgaven." That's why I'm here. I'm here to answer those questions. I'm not here to roll my eyes if you ask me this. I'm not here to get angry if you ask me this or get annoyed. That is my job to answer. So please go ahead and ask. Alliteration. Repetition of sounds, mostly found in poetry. Remember, if you come across something during what we're doing right now, right? If you come across information that you don't remember, you can always reply to me in the chat. You can write eloquently in a very elegant manner. You can say, "I'm sorry, Ms. I don't have a clear recollection of that term. I do not recall having learned it. Although I must have learned it, I don't remember at the moment." So you can always apply your skills to that as well. So, alliteration, repetition of sounds, mostly found in poetry. Serena suddenly saw what was happening. Seldom saw what was happening. So, what was happening? So, here you have the repetition of that sound. I'm giving you another one right now. And I know that most of you will get it. That jacket was going places by itself. It was walking around everywhere looking for its owner. That jacket was going places by itself. So I want you to tell me not just which literary device it is, but I want you to explain. So please type in chat. And remember, if you don't know, you can say, "I am not familiar with that term." It's fine. I need to see that you're typing in chat. those of you who said personification, you are correct. You're absolutely correct. Personification, when you attribute the characteristics and or actions of a human being to an object, a situation, or an animal. And yes, I will be saving a copy of this. Everything that I'm typing that you can see, I'm going to be saving a copy of it, and everybody's going to get it so that you can study and prepare for your exam. Your exam will consist of most likely texts that you will have to analyze. And you have a little bit of experience with that. So listen, I believe you will do tremendously well, but you need to be prepared. You need to prepare yourself for everything. So you need to know how to explain. And sometimes people are like, hey, but why didn't I get a 6? My answer was correct. Why didn't I get a 6? Why did I get a 5? Why did I get a 4? The difference between a 4, 5, and 6, it comes to how eloquent your vocabulary is, how accurate your grammar is, and how you also need to get the correct answer, right? You need to know what's happening in the world, politics-wise, in the English-speaking world, to be more exact, to be more specific about it. And you need to know your literature, you need to know how to analyze a text, and you need to do all of that with perfect grammar. You do that, you get a 6. If there are flaws in your grammar, you will always be like at a 5. At a 5 plus, maybe, and in certain cases, depending on the type of grammar mistake that you make, you will be at a 4, maybe even a 3. So you need to really take care of every detail. You need to know the answer, you need to write eloquently, and you also need to have perfect grammar. Know the answer, have perfect grammar, use elegant words. So I have talked about linguistically correct elements that you can use in language versus grammatically correct. Who can type in chat the difference between something that's linguistically correct and something that is academically acceptable, grammatically acceptable? The other day, we're talking about the word irregardless that has sadly become a word. Let's talk about that for a moment. Please type away in chat. Where does the word irregardless fall? In what category? Is it grammatically correct? Is it linguistically correct? Is it academically acceptable? If you were to use the word regardless or the word irregardless for an academic paper, you're taking your exam that Maritolina Kulstad is going to grade, not me. And I just made up this person. If there's somebody out there with that name, I just made it up. I don't know anyone by that name, but I'm just saying. An outside examiner is going to correct your text. So if you choose the word regardless, you are both linguistically and academically correct. And you're also writing something that is grammatically acceptable, that is more elevated and educated than irregardless. And this is not my just my opinion. This is in the academic world. You need to be prepared for the assessment that you will get from others. Linguistically correct, anything that you say. I can come in here and say, yo, what's up? Linguistically correct, you know that I mean, hi, how are you doing? Hi, how do you do? It's linguistically correct, but it's not academically, or it's not elegant, it's not elevated, it is not what you should be saying in a very formal setting. Yes, moving along. If I say, that girl brightens up the room, she is the sun. Think about it while I type the previous sentence, and then you can just type away. The girl brightens up the room. She is the sun. So I know that a lot of you, I feel I can, there are 10 of you. I feel like the 10 of you have heard the word metaphor. You have heard that word, you have used that word, and you are very familiar with it. But do you know that there is a difference between saying she is the sun and she is like the sun? What is the difference? Which one is the metaphor? And which one is what is the other one? Please type in chat if you haven't already. We'll see where this is going to get us. I have faith in all of you, and I know that you can do extremely well no matter what. So she is the sun. When I say that she is the sun, what I'm actually saying, I'm comparing her to the sun, but I'm not using the word as or the word like. And there is a name for that. And you should, if you didn't know it from last year, those of you who learned it last year, and those of you who learned it this year with me, if you don't remember, you can always write it down. I feel like my neck looks so weird on video. I want to cover it. So, those of you who are familiar with my Quizlet, there's not time for that yet, but I'm just, those of you who are familiar with it, I have sent you a link to this Quizlet, literary devices that you should know. And there are lots of them here. Not only literary devices, but also elements of literature that you should know. And it would serve you a great purpose for you to be using this particular one to study. So all of this, you absolutely have to know. Absolutely. Even if you don't know it now, by the end of April, when you take your exams, May, June, let's just be on the safe side and just learn it and know it by April. So when May comes around, when June comes around, you will be able to dazzle Maritolina when she corrects your. Wouldn't it be funny if there actually were an external examiner with that name? So you need to know all of these that are flashing through your screen right now. advise all of you to study this. So let's start with this one. Compares two unlike things using the words like or as. For example, the dog smells like dirty socks. That's a simile. A metaphor compares two unlike things without using the words like or as. So you just say, she is the sun. That is a metaphor. That is a straight up metaphor. Compares two elements without using the words like or as. And if you don't remember it from last year, and if you don't remember it from last week or a couple of weeks ago, that's why we're here. A simile. And I know, oh, Pollyanna, you've said it every class for like weeks now. It's important. It needs to be beaten into your brain to make sure that you never forget it, because you're going to need to use it. The room smelled like flowers. All right. Now I'm going to give you a chance to type in chat. I'm going to give you a sentence, and you're going to type in chat. Remember, I'm still going over some of the most common literary devices. Okay, there are several of them, but we're focusing on the ones that we use the most. Yes. When I say to you, when Evelyn stood on the dock and saw the ship sail away, the melody of her childhood made her think about times past. Think about it for a minute. Evelyn was standing at the dock. She was watching her lover sail away, and the melody of her childhood. So the music started playing in her head, and so she started to think about her childhood, about her life. What does the music, the melody of her childhood, what is that? Write anything that you can possibly say. And those of you VG3, you know who Evelyn is. And that's what I meant yesterday when I said, be the role models. So you be the role models to show them what is to come, right? Because you're already here and they're here right behind you. So they're going to be up here with you next year. Who's Evelyn? Type it up. And also type up who Evelyn is. Type up the name of the author related to Evelyn, in what way. And also, that whole thing that I said, tell me what that is in literature. And I'm gonna write it here for you. I'm gonna write it. want to embellish it too much. So please, so now you have learned something from VG3 because they just read the short story Evelyn, which is a short story written by James Joyce. James Joyce, great figure in British literature for many different reasons. Modernism says it all. Modernism. Is it a period of time? Not exactly. It's a literary movement. It is what people were doing, thinking, feeling, and how they were expressing it into literature, and it just happened to fit into a period. But you should think of modernism, American realism, you should think of all of those as literary periods or movements. So to say it's a movement is probably better than just saying a period. Yes? So the melody of her childhood. So the music playing in her head symbolizes her experiences as a child. Those of you who read the short story, go ahead and type in chat how old Evelyn was. If you can remember. If you don't have a clear recollection of it, it's also okay. But please write it down if you remember. Evelyn was 19 years old. And where was she trying to go? Please type it in the chat. VG2 perhaps hasn't heard of this yet, but they will. In good time, they will. Let's keep going, shall we? Here is your next sentence. And I'm going to make this something that everyone can relate because it has to be one of the literary devices that we have been talking about. Mariah ate a ton of food because she was super hungry. Go. Type it up. And explain also why you're typing that up. And remember, if you don't remember, if you can't recall, make sure to tell your examiner that. Tell them. Mariah ate a ton of food because she was super hungry. What's a ton? Let's start with that. What's a ton? Tell Johnny Depp, what's a ton? Johnny Depp wants to know. Tell him. What's a ton? It was funnier in my head. Yes, what's a ton? Let's check it out, shall we? A ton. A ton is 900,000 something kilograms. That is a lot of kilograms right there. So if we look at this objectively, it is very obvious that we know, come on, we know We know that Mariah couldn't possibly have eaten 900 kilos of food, 900,000 kilos of food. So what are we doing? We're exaggerating. When we exaggerate in literature, we're using a literary device called hyperbole or hyperbole. Different people pronounce it in different ways. They're all correct. Hyperbole, hyperbole. As long as you're saying it with a good enough pronunciation that people understand what you're saying, that's far more important than anything else, I'd say. Your goal with finding an accent you're comfortable with is an accent that is intelligible. An intelligible accent does not mean that you have to be intelligent. Because I know intelligible kind of sounds like intelligent, but intelligible means when I speak, people understand me. Even if I have a very thick accent, I could, for example, okay, let's give you the example of how I talk. When I speak Norwegian, I sometimes speak with a very thick accent in Norwegian to where you know I'm not from Norway, right? You know I'm not from a Norwegian speaking country. But you can understand hopefully you can understand what I say. So that's an intelligible pronunciation. Keep going because we're doing so well. In exaggeration of facts or elements. Let's do one more. Onomatopoeia. Shoot, I was supposed to give you a sentence. Well, we're going to have to live with it. Just go ahead and type in chat examples of onomatopoeia. And what it is. It's very important for everybody. I know that VG2 learned this last year, perhaps with the other teacher more than with me. I don't think I gave you so many chances to practice this as he did. But it's perfectly fine because we're now going to put everything together. Onomatopoeia. Those of you who wrote something to the effect of it is the written representation of sounds. Boom. Bam. Onomatopoeia. We've talked about this for a little bit, so now let's talk about other elements of literature that you should know when you're analyzing text, and this goes for everybody. It's not just VG2, not just VG3. All of you need to know this. The main, what's up the caps? The main character in a book, short story, flash fiction is called no hyphen in that. Yes? I know you know it. The protagonist. So usually in novels, short stories, even in poems in certain cases, we have the protagonist, usually not at all times, but usually the good guy, the good girl. right? And then there's somebody that goes in there to do the opposite of everything the protagonist is doing. Someone that's going in there to bash your protagonist, to diss him, to be completely horrendous towards that person. The villain of a story, whether it's a novel or a short story, is starts with letter A. I know everyone knows all of this, but I also know that sometimes it's easy to forget. The villain of a story is, it starts with letter A. Tell President Obama. Tell him. The villain of a story is the antagonist. And I know everyone knew that, but maybe you forgot. It happens. It's crazy how that happens sometimes. We forget. So, the antagonist is the villain. The mean guy or girl. Girls can be villains too. More often than not, it's the guy who is the villain. But there are pretty good female villains out there. Now, somebody's telling a story. First person point of view. And they know everything that's happening in everyone's lives throughout the novel or short story. What is that called? Starts with letter O. What kind of first person point of view that, if you remember? We're almost done, I promise you. It's going to be like 4 more minutes, and then you can open Kapellendam Undervisning, or perhaps I know you can go into the page for interactions 1 or interactions 2, and you will see that I sent you an activity to work on. You will take a screenshot after you finish and you will send it to me. Send it to me in chat. I didn't open like a opgave section for it. I didn't. So just send it to me in chat. Take screenshots after you finish doing your work. Remember, you have to do this until 3:45. Let's make it 4. 4 o'clock you have to send it in so that I can mark a little green V in Visma instead of fravad. I can give you a presence instead of an absence. Yes, they know everything that's happening. The narrator knows everything that's happening in everyone's lives. He or she is also a part of the story. So it's first person point of view and is omniscient. Omniscient. Omniscient, all knowing. Not to be confused with omnipotent. So it's able to do anything he or she wants. this is different. This here is the definition of an omniscient narrator. Omnipotent is something completely different, right? When we talk about religion, people who believe in God believe that God is able to do anything he or she wants, and God is omnipotent in their religion. If you're not religious, then you're not really, yeah, you're not really here for that. But you should know what the word means. Omniscient knows it all. Omnipotent can do it all. Let's keep going, shall we? This type of text, this type of literary work has a clear beginning, middle, and end. It has a climax. It focuses on one storyline. It has very few characters. What is it called? Type it in chat. Those of you who said a short story, you are right. In Norwegian, novelle. Let's go with the next one. This type of literary work usually has lots of chapters, several storylines. It has a protagonist and sometimes one or more antagonists, lots of characters, lots of side stories happening. There's not just a one focal point. What type of writing is that? Type it. Remember, if you don't know, you can say, hey, I really do not feel like I am familiar with this, so I'm going to pass. You have to say something in chat. And a novel. A novel in Norwegian, roman. Please do not mix the two of them. Please promise me that you will not break my heart and confuse the two. I'm going to show you what I just typed. A short story is the Norwegian novelle. A novel is the Norwegian roman. You should know this. Very important. So here is everything that we covered. Alliteration, repetition of sounds, mostly found in poetry. Serena suddenly saw what was happening. Personification, when you attribute the characteristics and or actions of a human being to an object, a situation, or an animal. My jacket was going places on its own. It was walking everywhere looking for me. So the jacket is not a person, cannot walk. Metaphor compares two elements without using words like or as. The girl brightens up the room. She is the sun. Simile compares two elements using the words like or as. The room smelled like flowers. As Evelyn stood at the dock, the melody of her childhood played in her head. She was reminded of her past. Symbolism. Symbolism is when there is symbolic value of a situation, a feeling, or an object, but it actually means something else. So the music was not just playing in her head just to play it. It was symbolic of her experiences. Hyperbole or a hyperbole, depending on how you want to pronounce it, an exaggeration of, of facts or elements. Mariah ate a ton of food because she was super hungry. Onomatopoeia, pow, pow, pow. It is the written representation of sounds. The main character in a book, short story, And also, you can use that same word for movies and series as well. The protagonist. The villain of a story, the antagonist. First person point of view, they know everything that is happening in everyone's lives throughout the novel or short story. That is called omniscient, not to be confused with omnipotent. Is able to do anything he or she wants. In religion, people say God is omnipotent. A short story, the Norwegian novella, a novel, Norwegian roman. Everyone is going to get a copy of this document and you will be able to study. Now I'd like you to focus on everything that you need to do on the page for interactions. I sent you the activities on the website for the book. You need to log into the book website for you to find it. You need to go to Kapellendam Undervisning, log in with Feide, and you're good to go. I am not going to play Quizlet with you right now because I want to give you time to work on your activities. Send them to me before 4 o'clock, and I'll see VG2 tomorrow. Please read the message I sent you on Teams for that so that you know. Have a great rest of your day.